Chapter 5 of The Story of Alchemy. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Peter Yearsley. The Story of Alchemy and the Beginnings of Chemistry by M. Pattison Muir. Chapter 5. The Alchemical Essence. In the last chapter I tried to describe the alchemical view of the interdependence of different substances. Taking for granted the tripartite nature of man, the coexistence in him of body, soul, and spirit, no one of which was defined, the alchemists concluded that all things are formed as man is formed, that in everything there is a specific bodily form, some portion of soul, and a dash of spirit. I considered the term soul to be the alchemical name for the properties common to a class of substances, and the term spirit to mean the property which was thought by the alchemists to be common to all things. The alchemists considered it possible to arrange all substances in 4 general classes, the marks whereof were expressed by the terms hot, cold, moist, and dry. They thought of these properties as typified by what they called the 4 elements: fire, air, water, and earth. Everything, they taught, was produced from the 4 elements, not immediately, but through the mediation of the 3 principles, mercury, sulphur, and salt. These principles were regarded as the tools put into the hands of him who desired to effect the transmutation of one substance into another. The principles were not thought of as definite substances, nor as properties of this or that specified substance. They were considered to be the characteristic properties of large classes of substances. The chemist of today places many compounds in the same class because all are acids, because they all react similarly under similar conditions. It used to be said that every acid possesses more or less of the principle of acidity. Lavoisier changed the language whereby certain facts concerning acids were expressed. He thought that experiments proved all acids to be compounds of the element oxygen, and for many years after Lavoisier the alchemical expression, the principle of acidity, was superseded by the word oxygen. Although Lavoisier recognised that not every compound of oxygen is an acid, he taught that every acid is a compound of oxygen. We know now that many acids are not compounds of oxygen, but we have not yet sufficient knowledge to frame a complete definition of the term acid. Nevertheless, it is convenient, indeed it is necessary, to place together many compounds which react similarly under certain defined conditions, and to give a common name to them all. The alchemists also classified substances, but their classification was necessarily more vague than ours, and they necessarily expressed their reasons for putting different substances in the same class in a language which arose out of the general conception of natural phenomena which prevailed in their time. The primary classification of substances made by the alchemists was expressed by saying these substances are rich in the principle sulphur, those contain much of the principle mercury, and this class is marked by the preponderance of the principle salt. The secondary classification of the alchemists was expressed by saying this class is characterised by dryness, that by moisture, another by coldness, and a fourth by hotness. The dry substances contain much of the element earth, the moist substances are rich in the element water, in the cold substances the element air preponderates, and the hot substances contain more of the element fire than of the other elements. The alchemists went a step further in their classification of things. They asserted that there is one thing present in all things, that everything is a vehicle for the more or less perfect exhibition of the properties of the one thing, that there is a primal element common to all substances. The final aim of alchemy was to obtain the one thing, the primal element, the soul of all things, so purified, not only from all specific substances, but also from all admixtures of the 4 elements and the 3 principles, as to make possible the accomplishment of any transmutation by the use of it. If a person ignorant of its powers were to obtain the essence, he might work vast havoc and cause enormous confusion. It was necessary, therefore, to know the conditions under which the potencies of the essence became active. Hence there was need of prolonged study of the mutual actions of the most seemingly diverse substances, and of minute and patient examination of the conditions under which nature performs her marvellous transmutations. The quest of the one thing was fraught with peril, and was to be attempted only by those who had served a long and laborious apprenticeship. In the chemical treatise of Thomas Norton, the Englishman, called Believe Me, or the Ordinal of Alchemy, from the 15th century, the adept is warned not to disclose his secrets to ordinary people. You should carefully test and examine the life, character, and mental aptitudes of any person who would be initiated in this art, and then you should bind him by a sacred oath not to let our magistery be commonly or vulgarly known. Only when he begins to grow old and feeble he may reveal it to one person, but not to more, and that one man must be virtuous. If any wicked man should learn to practise the art, the event would be fraught with great danger to Christendom, for such a man would overstep all bounds of moderation, and would remove from their hereditary thrones those legitimate princes who rule over the peoples of Christendom. The results of the experimental examination of the compositions and properties of substances, made since the time of the alchemists, have led to the modern conception of the chemical element, and the isolation of about 70 or 80 different elements. No substance now called an element has been produced in the laboratory by uniting two or more distinct substances, nor has any been separated into two or more unlike portions. The only decided change which a chemical element has been caused to undergo is the combination of it with some other element or elements, or with a compound or compounds. But it is possible that all the chemical elements may be combinations of different quantities of one primal element. Certain facts make this supposition tenable, and some chemists expect that the supposition will be proved to be correct. If the hypothetical primal element should be isolated, we should have fulfilled the aim of alchemy, and gained the one thing, but the fulfilment would not be that whereof the alchemists dreamed. Inasmuch as the alchemical essence was thought of as the universal spirit, to whose presence is due whatever degree of perfection any specific substance exhibits, it followed that the more perfect a substance, the greater is the quantity of the essence in it. But even in the most perfect substance found in nature, which substance the alchemists said is gold, the essence is hidden by wrappings of specific properties, which prevent the ordinary man from recognizing it. Remove these wrappings from some special substance, and you have the perfect form of that thing. You have some portion of the universal spirit, joined to the one general property of the class of things whereof the particular substance is a member. Then remove the class property, often spoken of by the alchemists as the life of the substance, and you have the essence itself. The alchemists thought that to every thing, or at any rate to every class of things, there corresponds a more perfect form than that which we see and handle. They spoke of gold, and the gold of the sages; mercury, and the mercury of the philosophers; sulphur, and the heavenly sulphur of him whose eyes are opened. To remove the outer wrappings of ordinary properties which present themselves to the untrained senses was regarded by the alchemists to be a difficult task. To tear away the soul, the class property of a substance, and yet retain the essence which made that substance its dwelling place, was possible only after vast labour, and by the use of the proper agent working under the proper conditions. An exceedingly powerful, delicate, and refined agent was needed, and the mastery of the agent was to be acquired by bitter experience, and probably after many disappointments. Gold, an alchemist tells us, does not easily give up its nature, and will fight for its life, but our agent is strong enough to overcome and kill it, and then it also has the power to restore it to life, and to change the lifeless remains into a new and pure body. Thomas Norton, the author of The Ordinal of Alchemy, writing in the 15th century, says the worker in transmutations is often tempted to be in a hurry, or to despair, and he is often deceived. His servants will be either stupid and faithful, or quick-witted and false. He may be robbed of everything when his work is almost finished. The only remedies are infinite patience, a sense of virtue, and sound reason. In the pursuit of our art, he says, you should take care from time to time to unbend your mind from its sterner employments with some convenient recreation. The choice of workmen to aid in the mechanical parts of the quest was a great trouble to the alchemists. On this subject Norton says: "If you would be free